Okay, excellent. Thank you so much for joining us today for this annual and virtual arts grant workshop to review and discuss the categories that are currently on offer for grant funding with the City of West Hollywood. So today what we're going to talk about is we're going to review the various categories. We're going to offer some writing tips and hopefully have some time for you to unmute and ask some questions that you might have. I should also mention that if you have questions during the presentation, please write them down. If you don't want to unmute, then you can also email them to me or contact me during some open office hour opportunities. And so here is my contact information. I will also put it in the chat so that you all have it. But this is me. I have a dance background, and so I'm showing it off here at an art installation at the border of Utah and Nevada. And so I'm the grants coordinator for the city. That means that I have the privilege of facilitating the funding process for the municipal arts program here. And my email is my first initial and last name at weho.org. There's my number. It's 323-848-6354. And as always, you can find more information at weho.org/arts. And we invite you to follow us on all the socials at WeHo Arts. Okay, what is a municipal funding program? Well, this is a very typical program that you'll see throughout LA County municipalities and around our United States. And it is an annual grant program that is offered to eligible arts and nonprofit arts organizations for the production, performance, or presentation of art projects that take place in the city of West Hollywood and that serve the West Hollywood community. And what that means is these municipal funds are taxpayer dollars that are tied to a public good. So how we term that public good here in the city of West Hollywood is a low cost or free presentation or performance or engagement of art for our West Hollywood community, meaning it must take place within a 5-block radius of the city of West Hollywood. And forgive my pauses, I'm bringing people into the waiting room from the waiting room. Okay, so that is how typical municipal funding programs work. Typically, it would be, you can be based not in the city, but you must do the presentation in the city for that city's community. And we can go more into that as well. Okay, lots of information on this slide. And because it's a virtual program, I know that you can, take a screenshot or be able to like zoom in if possible. Also, I can send this deck out to you so that you have it. And essentially this information is taken out of our grant guidelines. But let's just assume you have no idea where the grant guidelines are. You've never seen them before. I'm just going to review in high, sort of like bullet pointed order what the eligibility is so that you can see if you might, be ineligible and therefore, not waste your time filling out an application. You may only apply to one grant category per year. That means we have 5 categories and you cannot apply to 3 of them. You can only apply to one of them. So I welcome you to be strategic in your thought process about how you decide to apply for funding. You must be an individual. Sorry, I'm getting a call. You must be an individual, an artist collective, a nonprofit arts organization, meaning that there are other granting organizations and services for food banks and other nonprofits that are not arts centric. We're looking for artists, individuals, arts collectives, and also nonprofit arts organizations to apply to this grant program. The applicant must be based in LA County. You only need to be a resident for the WeHo Artist Grant. Otherwise, you need to be based in LA County. You may not be a West Hollywood official, an employee, or an immediate family member of one. So a West Hollywood official includes council members, commissioners, board members, and of course, you may not be a city employee or the partner or family member of one. You may not receive funding for the same project from another department or division. So if you are a project that is seeking funding from the Russian Advisory Board, you may not apply for that exact same project to be funded through the grants program. What we do see sometimes is, for example, an arts organization will apply for funding for a youth program through another avenue and then apply for a presentational program through the arts grant program. So that's just one example. Projects cannot include fundraisers, capital campaigns, murals, or religious-based programs and events. So what that means is we cannot use this grant money to fund a gala. We cannot use this grant money to fund your renovation of your theater or your facility. We cannot, again, do it for a mural. That's because there's a separate process for mural artwork. And it cannot be a religious-based program or event because we're the government and we separate those things out. Applicants must submit a complete application. So sometimes what we see, unfortunately, is the beginnings of a presentation or beginnings of an application and no work samples submitted. And that's an incomplete application. Make sure that you're submitting work samples. Make sure that you're reviewing that each question was answered clearly and in paragraph form so that it's a really robust proposal that you're submitting. Here are the various arts grant categories that we have. This year, we're offering the 2027-2028 Special Arts Project Grant. That's a 2-year grant. The Community Arts Grant, Transgender, Gender Diverse, Intersex Plus Arts, we call that the TGI Grant, the Filmmakers Grant, and the WeHo Artist Grant. We're going to go into each of these categories a little bit deeper. So the Special Arts Project category is encompassing, and we can even colloquially refer to this as our games grant. The City of West Hollywood developed a cultural plan that was developed over a number of years and has a theme encapsulated within it. The theme is Inventing Traditions. So this 2-year grant is in response to that theme. We're asking applicants to explore how their art, their discipline, how their art discipline responds to, and how their art discipline's project responds to the theme Inventing Traditions. I invite every applicant to go into the guidelines specifically for this grant to get more details on what the city is looking for in terms of that Inventing Traditions theme. And then the applicant can take that, chew on it, play with it, and see what is inspiring in that. The projects from this grant must take place in the city of West Hollywood. So we have that 5-block radius that does give some leeway, but as you might imagine, space is at a premium. So we're asking applicants to get really creative with how they think about where these projects may happen. It is a 2-year grant, and this is our highest award amount at a maximum of $12,000 per year. We cannot guarantee that that amount will stay the same for the second year, but it is our hope that it does. The first year of funding should center around a community engagement experience. So this would be a lead up to a spectacular performance to take place in the year 2028, again, around and sort of thinking about the increase in potential audience from the games audience. This project should speak to the theme Inventing Traditions. It should be a marriage between community involvement and interaction with high quality, less quantity. We're looking for a really amazing moment in time that responds to the theme Inventing Traditions. Just to give you some idea of parameters, we are a municipality that is not looking to, for example, shut streets down for this project. This is a $10,000 to $12,000 grant that should really be realistic within that budget frame. So thinking about what is possible and realistic that can happen with a maximum award of $12,000 is going to help, I think, ground whatever the project is that's being presented. Additionally, $10,000 of this funding will be set aside for artists and applicants who self-identify as disabled or serving the disabled community. So here are just some examples to get you thinking about what might, be enticing. It could be a public art exhibit. It could be a dance performance, a concert, a theatrical performance. And I think that where most of the grantees run into some hurdles is thinking about where will these presentations happen. So I want to invite everyone to come to the city of West Hollywood, drive our streets, walk into the theaters and start inquiring, what does it cost to rent here? What kind of partnerships are you willing to have? And start to open up those conversations with some of our locations, our screening rooms here up on Sunset, our theater venues and our music venues, and start thinking about where you might want to do a presentation. Next up is the Community Arts Grant. So this is a one-year category, meaning it's only for 2027. And this is for a public-facing performance that would happen that's community-centered. It's really wanting to highlight the LGBTQ and BIPOC and or female artists and audiences within this application. So if that's a community that your artwork or your leadership speaks to, then this could be a great way to get some funding for a project that you want to do in the city of West Hollywood. So some examples of projects that we've had in the past are a Heritage Month celebration, a social justice centered art presentation or a panel, it's some kind of participatory workshop. The City of West Hollywood's Art Grants program cannot provide support for ongoing workshops in our facilities, but we can support a one-time use so that you can do the culmination presentation or maybe the introductory presentation of whatever series you might be offering. The Filmmakers Grant is for completed films. So I want to be very clear about that up front. There are other amazing granting organizations that provide funding for the development of a film. But in this case, the Filmmakers Grant is for the exhibition and distribution of completed films. The film must be completed by the time of application. This is basically a grant to help support filmmakers in the costly endeavor of getting their film out into the world. So they've done the hard work of completing the film. Now they're confronted with the expense of hiring a marketing person to help them get it out or the costs of submitting to film festivals. So this is a grant to help with those costs. But any screening that is being requested funding for should happen in the city of West Hollywood. Here's a slide with some eligible project proposals because sometimes it's a little hard to know where you might fit in. So maybe you need money for marketing materials, distribution expenses, film festival submissions, or hiring a consultant to help with the outreach strategy. The TGI grant is also a one-year grant, similar to the Community Arts Grant. This grant, however, is focused on supporting TGI community, whether in leadership or in audience. So we're looking for applicants who are deeply connected to this community in an authentic way so that they can have a positive and impactful experience here at the City of West Hollywood. This project should really focus on centering the TGI community, whether in content, again, leadership, or in audience. Some examples here are we sometimes have seen drag performance, trans performers, panelists, music performance, photo and art exhibit, and other engaging opportunities that happen in the city of West Hollywood. I know that folks have engaged with the Connie Norman transgender empowerment Center here in West Hollywood as a great partnership. So thinking about, again, where these presentations will happen. The WeHo Artist Grant is our only resident requirement grant. So you must be a West Hollywood resident to apply for this grant at the time of application. And while I understand that many applicants have a deep connection to the city of West Hollywood, you are required to be a resident for this one. So this award is $6,000 per artist with a total of 5 eligible spots for funding. The grant funds can be used in a meaningful way to support that artist development. So what that means is it doesn't necessarily need to be tied to a public-facing project. The public-facing project is the creation and presentation of a 3 to 5 minute video where the grantee describes the work that they did and how they developed and what their next steps are. That will happen to the commission at the November 2027 meeting. Okay, so we reviewed all of our categories, and it's time now to confront the fact that grants can be overwhelming, intimidating, and so it's important to take your time. Grants are due on July 1st. You've got a lot of time to explore the guidelines, write out your paragraphs in response, review them, edit them, pass them off to a friend who has no idea what you do, and see if they understand what you're trying to accomplish. So we're going to dig in a little bit on where you can present in the city of West Hollywood. Post-COVID, the city of West Hollywood generously has allowed some online presentations to remain as a response to the accessibility of those programs. I will offer that the 2027-2028 Special Arts Project Grant does not have an online component. But if an online presentation is something that your organization is interested in doing, the other categories may be a good place for a fit like that. The city does have some facilities. However, they are recreation facilities. That means they're gymnasiums. We have community center rooms that do not have any tech, no AV, no screen, they have electricity, but that is sort of where it ends. They do not come with staff. They do not come, many of them, with chairs and tables. They do not come with much. So when you're thinking about, I'll just use the city of West Hollywood's facility, I would just say, can you expand on that and explore your opportunities out into the city of West Hollywood? Because I think you'll find different and potentially better fits for the presentation. And so explore our local venues and see how creative you can get. Can you do your presentation in an art gallery that spills out, into a pocket park? Can it be that, you utilize a restaurant and take it over and transform it into something else? So find those relationships with our local businesses and see how you might fit in. Additionally, on our website at weho.org, if you type in arts grants and you go to our page, for current arts grantees, in the subheading Current Arts Grantees, there is a link to a venue PDF that showcases some of our local venues. So you can check that out as well. When you're writing any grant application, but I'll just speak specifically about West Hollywood, we really are looking for a focus and connection on our city. How does your project specifically incorporate the West Hollywood community? How do you know it incorporates the West Hollywood community? Have you had previous experiences here? How will you speak about that in your application? And how will you market your project to the West Hollywood community? Suppose this is the first time you've ever applied to the city of West Hollywood. How do you intend to market to this new community that you're entering? We welcome new applicants, and we just want to know, what is your plan? How are you intending to do your outreach? So be thinking about any press you might do. And also I should contribute that the City of West Hollywood's Arts Division does not contribute much. We do not include grantees in our social media. We do, however, offer them a monthly newsletter opportunity. So The arts division puts out a monthly newsletter, and grantees can submit to have their events and presentations in the newsletter. But we do not market, we do not do social media, and so all of that PR will be up to the applicants and the grantees ultimately. So be thinking about what you would need to do to market your program and invite audience in. Make sure you read everything in the application and guidelines carefully. This is going to help you respond in a way, and you can think of it a little bit like reality TV. So in reality TV, you see the person responding, but they're including the question in their answer. A lot of times our panel does not know you, does not know what you do. And so when the question is, what is your project? Keeping your answer really simple and saying, my project is, so putting the question in the answer is often a great way for the panel to understand that you read the question and you understood the assignment. Make sure that you're reading, reviewing, clarifying, editing all of your responses in the application so that you just don't miss that opportunity. I also, again, suggest sharing it with someone who has no idea what you do. That has been so helpful to so many applicants, and I've heard that the feedback that they get is because they're breathing and sleeping and dreaming of their project. They know it inside and out. But again, remember that the panel has never met you before. Eliminating any uncertainty that you know what you're doing will help them feel confident that funding you is going to be a good use of taxpayer dollars. So keep to the point in your application. Try not to use any jargon about how you made your film or what film camera you used, because the panel may not understand any of that. If you want to use those kind of technical terminologies, just remember to explain what they are so that the panel can understand what it is you're talking about. Be very clear about why you're seeking the funding, what it is you're going to do with the funding, when and where you are going to present. Try not to answer things like somewhere in the city of West Hollywood. That's a not clear answer. And when we ask for when, try not to say sometime in the next year. Have an idea of when you might be presenting your project. And please, when you are submitting for what the project is, please try not to say it is a multimedia, multifaceted art project, because I can tell you from experience that the panel has no idea what that means. Try to be very clear and explain. Take the time to explain what it is you love to do, that you're passionate about, and that you want to see come to life in the city of West Hollywood. Finally, starting all of that early will help you be able to take naps while you're doing your application. It can be overwhelming and daunting to think about putting all of this passion into a paper. And so taking time and speaking to your board, speaking to your artistic director, having these kinds of conversations with your team can really help you take the time that you need to take breaks and come back. You never know what kind of clarity you might get in the time in between. So let's talk about the budget. The budget is often where applicants have a little bit of a trip up. We at the City of West Hollywood this year are not asking for match funds. However, we would like to see a balanced budget. And what that means is that your income should somewhat match your outcome. Your income should match your expenditures. When you are thinking about the income, if you're only showing the City of West Hollywood is going to give me a grant for $12,000 and no other income, and your project is going to cost $24,000, the panel feels less confident that that project is a realistic project to be seen through, because where will all of that extra money come from? So be sure that you're thinking about other points of income and a balanced budget. Now, there's a section in the budget called in kind. And what in kind means, and you can I welcome you to Google this for more information as well, but basically in kind means when someone is going to give you a service or good for no actual money transaction. Now that service or good has a cost associated with it, but they're giving it to you in kind. And what that means is you can put that on your budget sheet and it counts as an income. So if someone's going to give you $500 worth of wine for your art exhibit opening, then you would put that $500 in an in-kind section of the budget. And then that would, count toward your income for your project. And additionally, think about how your budget demonstrates the values of your organization or you as an artist and your project. Sometimes applicants get tripped up when they decide they're going to fund one person $7,000 and give each artist working on the project $20. The panel sees that very clearly, and often it is frowned upon to have a single person paid in a percentage so disparate from the other members of the team, unless there is some detail in the budget note for why that might be. So please do use the budget notes for more detail in discussing why you are putting the budget numbers in the way that they are. We often see the budget notes left blank in applications, and I just want to welcome applicants to utilize that space to explain a little bit deeper why they're making the choices that they are in their budget. If you have, for example, a venue cost, an expense, and it says $5,000, and then you leave the budget notes blank, well, that could be a good place to put. It's going to be $4,000 for the venue, but $1,000 for the cost of rehearsal space leading up to the performance. So it helps give the panel an idea that you are thinking about the budget, that you're taking into consideration the building pieces that would need to be in place for your project to be successful. The arts grant timeline is pretty long, and apologies ahead of time, but we are a municipality and we are the definition of the tape. So the applications are all due July 1st. The panel is given your applications and have about a month to review them. They submit their scores, and we have a panel conversation in late August. Scores are finalized with the Arts and Cultural Affairs Commission and assigned funding. That happens at the end of August, and then by September, again, there's no dates here because this is sort of fluid. We have to look at the council's meeting agenda, and we go on a meeting in September where the city council will review the funding recommendations from the commission and ultimately decide on the funding. Once that happens, then we begin the contract process. The contract process is really involved and lengthy. However, it's not insurmountable. I can assure you that there are many grantees here at the City of West Hollywood who have never been given grant funding before who successfully complete the contract process here. But what it does require is you submit your W-9, we go through the contract, make sure expectations are cleared, make sure you have insurance, and then we can begin the payment process. Our grants are usually paid out by March of the following year. A great way to maintain and sort of understand projects that the city has funded in the past is to follow us on our socials and to sign up for our newsletter, which again, if you go to weho.org and type in artist newsletter, you will be able to sign up for that really easily. And you'll be able to see, because in every grantee newsletter posting, it will say supported in part by an arts grant from the City of West Hollywood. But we don't put our grantee programs onto these three platforms you see here. However, you might find other opportunities, the muralist roster, the musicians roster, theater in the park, and our other amazing programs. So here I am again, and I will welcome you all to unmute, or whoever would like to unmute and offer up some time for questions.
Hey, Eva.
Hi there.
How are you?
I'm doing well.
Thanks so much for this talk. I have a couple questions if that's okay, but I don't want to take too many time. Can I do like three and then move on to someone else?
Yeah, because maybe someone else will have the same question as you.
For sure. Okay, let me put my screens where they need to be. The first question that I have is in regard to salary allotment. There's a section on the grant app that has, I think it references salary for folks as a part of the team. I'm wondering what WeHo's preference is in regard to percentages.
Yeah, I mean, we're not looking for an annual budget in the budget section. So if you have someone who's on salary for $20,000 a year, then I would say, what does that look like for the time that they're working on the project that's being submitted? So, and then you can again use the budget notes to detail that out. This person is salaried, but we're using a percentage because this is the estimated time that they will work on this project.
Okay, fabulous. Thank you. The second question is in regard to marketing targeting West Hollywood. Is there a type of marketing that West Hollywood prefers, i.e., posters, social media?
Yeah, great question. So, we don't have like a preference. And what I think has worked in the past for applicant or for grantees is a guerrilla marketing strategy, meaning we've seen a shift away from paper. So basically, it will be Instagram, all of the sort of socials that they will sort of splatter, TikTok, and any of those kind of creative online ways to get the word out. Additionally, and I think in-person moments are always so great, and we have seen some success in cross promotion. So if you, for example, are a comic artist and you would go to another comedian's set and then talk with people there, invite them to your thing. It's like audiences want to see more of what they are already seeing. So just thinking about how you can capitalize on things already happening, which is why, again, it's like nice to know. I mean, the city of West Hollywood specifically is doing so much art all the time. You can go to our Summer Sounds concerts if you're a musician, speak to people there. There's 300 people there. Invite all of them. And if you are a person who likes paper, many do, then take your flyers to a Summer Sounds, pass them around, and that's a great way to invite audience. So it's really up to the applicant to get creative about how they're gonna do that outreach.
Okay, fabulous. Thank you. Another question I have, actually, if I could do two more. One is in regard to ticketing the event. Does West Hollywood have a preference in regard to, I know you said low cost and free. Do they have a preference between low cost and free? And if we are providing costs, do they have a preference around those different forms of pricing, like student pricing and stuff like that?
Well, I know that in the past, so first of all, I don't believe there's a preference, and I've seen panels go everywhere between, wow, $150 ticket, that's a lot, all the way to, wow, this person should be charging, for this
Yeah.
amazing presentation. So I think it really is a little bit about a feel. Maybe recognizing the venue a little bit. So, for example, if it's like utilizing a city rec room, you might want to lower the cost. If you're, up at the Roxy, you should charge a ticket. So I think it's venue does have some play in there. When it comes to the differentiation, I will say yes, the panel really appreciates senior prices because we have a big senior community here, and West Hollywood residents absolutely being invited into the space. And then really the question is, well, how do you enforce something like that? So thinking that through as well.
Okay. The last question I have is I'm coming from Drag Performers United. I think we spoke a couple of weeks ago. And my team was really inspired by the theme of inventing traditions, even though we're not going for that particular grant. I'm wondering if there's any value in it because we're talking about, this drag show that uh is about workers' rights and kind of presenting what like a new era that we want to have for drag workers' rights in LA and in West Hollywood specifically. So I'm wondering if there's any value in kind of mentioning or, I don't know, name dropping the concept of inventing tradition since we are still kind of going with it.
I think if it inspires you, that's the coolest thing ever. I don't think it will have any sway on the panel because there are three panels this year, and they're reviewing categories. So the if you're not applying to the special arts project category, that panel will not review the TGI category, for example. They will not review the WeHo artist category. So they won't really know what you're talking about. So all of that said, you can call it inventing traditions, and that will be a super cool thing. And it doesn't have to relate back.
Okay, sure. Thank you. I appreciate your time.
Of course. Thanks for the questions.
Hello.
Hi there.
Hi. I'm Tony, and I have a feature film, and I was looking at venues that I could screen it at, and I called one, and it's like $2,500 just for 125 seats, and that's like just for the rental of the theater. Plus, they want insurance, which is another 150. So I'm looking at the amounts, and I'm wondering, like, if I applied for a larger amount, that would be just one one thing. Would they want more grantees, like four grants of 2,500 instead of one of, 5 or 10 grand? I'm just curious how that would work because if you want to have a screening, if you don't want to have a screening as a filmmaker grant, I'm wondering how it benefits West Hollywood if it's not a screening? So,
I think you're asking such phenomenal questions, and it is the quintessential vibe of every panel to be different in this way. Meaning, last year, as an example, we had two panels. One panel said we'd like to fund fewer artists so that we can really give them the maximum amount of award that we can. The other panel said, we really think every project is so great, it's too hard. We think we should fund everyone at a smaller amount and let them make what they can with it. That is not this, it's not staff influence. Every panel has a vibe. That said, those points, whatever the panel point scores, that goes on to the commission, and the commission ultimately makes that recommendation to council. So we have seen both ways. And my only real advice to you would be follow your gut for what you need for your art and ask for what you need and let the panel tell you, let the chips fall where they may. This grant will be here next year and can support you in a different way. So,
quick question though.
yeah.
If you say you asked for 10 grand and they said, would they go, oh, we'll give you five, and then that way we could do two grantees, even if you asked for more and say, yeah, you can just, work with less or whatever?
Yes. All of our four grantees in the filmmakers grant from that, that they're funded this year, they each asked for $10,000. So
Okay.
none of them got that.
Gotcha. Okay. So then my problem has been experienced by everyone else.
Yes, it's not an unusual problem, but
Yeah.
it is sort of like this is the part that might feel a little arbitrary and is really hard to plan for because we don't know what the panel's vibe will be.
Gotcha. Thank you so much.
Of course. That is to say there's no guarantee. This is a panel of your peers. And that part I can assure you on that part. Thank you. But good questions. Any other questions?
I had another question if I could hop in, if
Yeah.
no one else does. The last question that I was looking at was in regard to pay what you can ticketing. Would that it how would it be best to address that if that's something my team wants to go in the direction of? Is that something I include in the notes on the side? Do I just put like, 0, pay what you can, or like suggested 5, but pay what you can? What does that look like?
So grantees have done this in the past, but I'm not sure in application form how I've seen that come across. What I might suggest is that in the ticketing line item, you put an amount that you might anticipate. And then, yes, you say in the budgets, we plan to offer a $5 pay what you can, or I've even seen people pay it forward. So it's like there's an offer for like, for example, we will offer the City of West Hollywood residents a $5 ticket, but they can pay it forward, meaning they can buy the next person a ticket at $5 or whatever. So it's a great way also to invite people to like bring their friends. You get more audience. So thinking about, again, how that income can work, but that's all kind of a great place to break down in the budget notes as you're thinking about that through with your team.
Okay. And in regard to fundraising, is there any capability of including like a QR code anywhere to like a Give Butter campaign on our pamphlets at the bill, or do we have to like completely cut out anything that even looks like it could be in relation to fundraising?
So that's a great question. You Grantees, especially nonprofits, I would say. I think it gets a little bit more tricky with an individual artist, but nonprofits can um, make statements such as um, for a tax-free donation, use this QR code to contribute to our programming. Again, it gets a little bit trickier with individual artists because it's like, taxpayer dollars going to an individual for a very unclear, even if the artist is clear, it's a little bit trickier. But nonprofits, but what the point is in the eligibility is sometimes we'll see applications come through for the annual gala, and that's the part where it's like that's a very clear and hard no.
But those ticket sales are technically a form of, hypothetically, a form of fundraising, or are those ticket sales supposed to go directly towards the cost of the event itself?
That is correct. The ticket sales are supposed to go directly toward the cost of the event itself.
Okay.
The cost of the event should be laid out in the expenses in a way that's like we're paying artists this much, our our food and beverage is this much, our venue rental is this much, our tech is this much. That should encompass the event, and nothing is going toward like our internship program or something that's unrelated to the project that's happening.
Thank you.
Yeah. I really appreciate these questions because this is being recorded. It will go on the website, and so other people really might have these questions and be able to get an answer here. So thank you.
Another question on like charging to go see the screening.
Yeah.
Would we put like, oh, we plan on making, $2,500 from the attendees, and that would expand our budget more to afford other
Absolutely.
things. So we just need the grant for the venue, and then we'll use the money to, promote it, the extra money that we'll have to promote and stuff like
That's
that.
a great question. So how that usually works in a budget for a grant application is you'll have your ticket price, but in your budget notes, you'll say this is a 125 seat screening room. We anticipate reaching out to and getting RSVPs from 200 people because we know that there will be a, 50% no show. And so with that 50% no show from the 200 people, we will have 100 people. Our ticketing is this much. It's a little bit like you got to do the numbers.
Mhm.
Then that's how you plug in the ticket price. And that's how you arrive at the okay, then our budget is showing it's a $2,500 rental fee. We're going to get X amount of dollars from our tickets, which means we're going to be able to, spend this much on marketing. And we're looking for the city to support. And this, all of that will match up once you start putting the numbers into the budget.
Another thing is the film is fiscally sponsored by a 501c3 charity. So I was just curious in regard to that fundraising question that the other person had was so anyone, like if we wanted to say, hey, contributing to this, buying a ticket will help, it's a tax write-off or something like that as well. Is that something we can include in promoting it as well?
Yes, and I would sort of ask you follow up. Is the fiscal sponsor the applicant in this scenario, or are you the filmmaker, director, producer, the applicant? Because I would just say fiscal sponsors can be utilized to apply to the grants. However, I would just say make sure you're clear with your fiscal sponsor of their take on because the city will contract with the fiscal sponsor. The city's check will go to the fiscal sponsor. So be very clear about what it is you're getting out of that deal that you have with your fiscal sponsor.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Of course. I think Chris has a question.
Hi. Thank you for holding this today. Lots of great information. My questions come with regard to the special arts project. Two questions. One with regard to the disabled individuals. So is that basically doubling what's possible as far as the grant if you include disabled folks? And does the disabled folks need to be the attendees? You're building the event so disabled folks can attend, or they need to be a part of your team or the producing team? That's one question. And the second one is with regard to, you said, this is new information that I heard today, that you wanted the first year to be community engagement experience leading up to what big, like the big experience is in the second year. Is that a requirement, or or can both events be like the big event of both years? You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
if you have a fully formed idea and you want to put it first year, and then you do the same second year, and it's creating tradition because people are coming back for it. Is that possible, or do you want to see a lead up? Those are my two questions.
That's a great question. I'll start with the first question. What we're looking for the disability carve out, it's not double. It's just making sure that we're including disabled artists and audiences in the leadership and in the incorporation and engagement of that presentation. So all disabled audiences should be able to go to all presentations. But this is talking about incorporating them in the leadership and the formation of the project itself, really to represent back to our disabled community artists who are disabled themselves. Then the second question is, and it's not a double amount, it's a carve out. So it's making sure to leave space so that we know for sure there will be at least one grantee who represents our disabled community. The second part of the question about the 2 years. What I think the city is looking for is the big push for 28, and ultimately the city will curate the timeline of tentpole presentations submitted by grantees now for that timeline. We're talking about between March and September of 28. So there's like the Olympic bump that happens of tourism during that time. We don't know. There's no guarantee there will be a bump, but history does show there will be some bump. What we're seeing with World Cup is it may not be as big as we think, but there will be some. So we want to capitalize on that moment. If you do the same presentation twice, that could be interesting. But my question back would be, how will you really make it feel special in that 28 moment? And so that will be something you can talk about in the narrative, because the narrative in the application does break out these 2 years. So you have a chance to talk about it and say, well, we don't want to do just some community engagement, blow it off. We want to really do something in 27, but here's how 28 will be the same but different. I hope that helps. It's a little bit clear as mud, but you know, great. It doesn't need to be a save the date, you know, it doesn't need to be again like that, you know, it doesn't need to be a sort of throwaway, but it can. So if you're a theater company and you want to do, you know, a 18 to 20 person show, that's a really huge undertaking. Maybe you do the 10 person show, you know, the pared down version of it in the year prior. Maybe you do the open rehearsal or the open development, or you have like the 3 workshops that are being held at a theater on Sunset that are in 27, and the big presentation happens in 28. These are just, you know, examples of ideas. Great, great questions.
I have another one. In the application, it mentions like using the funds for like film festivals and stuff like that. I'm just curious, how does that benefit West Hollywood? I don't know of many film festivals that are in the region of West Hollywood.
Yes, you're right. And, you know, I'm not clear on that either. This was a directive from council. I think that they're really looking to utilize the grant program as a way to support filmmakers that are here in West Hollywood. And so what I might offer to you in that is, in the narrative where you talk about your project, how can you tie it back to the city of West Hollywood? You know, I am going to use this funding. My intention is to use this funding to apply for XYZ Film Festival. And when I go to these film festivals, I will be reflecting the culture of the city of West Hollywood by XYZ. Or you know, I will present at these film festivals, and when I come home to West Hollywood, I will do a panel at Plummer Park that shares my learnings from my time at these film festivals, and it will be a 1 hour sharing. How can you be creative about how you tie it back together?
Yeah, there's a number of festivals that play at the Chinese Theater, which is, I think, outside of West
It is
Hollywood,
outside, yeah.
but it's not very far. So a lot of the community could easily go to that, festival kind of thing, because I've been in festivals right there, which
Yeah.
is just past the border. I think it's outside the 5 blocks of.
It is outside the 5 blocks. So many things are really just unfortunately outside of our 5 blocks. But again, space is the premium. Space is where grantees run into their biggest hurdle. And so the earlier you can think about where you're going to do your presentation, the better off you will be in your application. When it comes to film festivals and screening, let me ask you, does the content of your film tie back to the city of West Hollywood at all? Was any of it filmed here in the city?
I'm trying to think.
I'm just saying that could be another way.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like our film, is portraying the life and legacy of an LGBTQ, icon or community member. Or we filmed in West Hollywood Park, this one little intro. It could be any tie back to the city of West Hollywood will just help you have a little more grounding in your application.
Sure. All right. Thank you.
Of course. I know you have a completed film, but if you put a logo in your credits, then that could be another good tie-in. And say, I'm going to go to these film festivals, and if you fund me, I'll put your logo in my credits. They like that. We like to see our logo. Anybody else have a question as we come to the end of our hour together? This will be presented and packaged up online so that if you have other members of your team that you want to share this with, you'll be able to find it at our website. Again, my information I will put in the chat here. You can email me or call me. And I work Monday through Friday. So if you don't get me, know that I will get back with you. So I am here with questions. My limitation is that I cannot review your application. So again, lean on your friends and your community to review your application. But if you have questions about eligibility, even maybe what do you think about this project, I can help in those ways, but I can't tell you what to apply with, and I can't tell you, and I can't review your application. But I can wish all of you good luck and want to let you know that we are not the only grant maker in town. I welcome you to explore the city of Culver City, the city of Santa Monica. If you are a nonprofit arts organization, the County of Los Angeles has a wonderful organizational granting program. If you're in film independent, women in film, the New Filmmakers of Los Angeles are some organizations that have funding arms. Of course, Drag Arts Lab is a great resource as well for drag community. The Connie Norman, a great resource. The Arts Commission can be a great resource. We meet every fourth Thursday of the month at City Hall in West Hollywood at 5 p.m. And you can come and tell the commission what you do. And welcome, invite yourself, be welcomed into the municipal art space and sit through a meeting and contribute to the meeting. You can have time for public comment, give your feedback. Of course, there's also council meetings as well, but those are often about many other topics and issues related to the city of West Hollywood, whereas the Arts Commission is really talking about arts, which is our purview. And so those are just some other ways to stay involved with the city of West Hollywood and also our neighboring cities, which offer great art programming. So with that, I will say thank you so much for being here, and we'll see your applications. Thanks again.
Thanks, Eva.
Bye.